Amigos, compadres, welcome. Spring football. We are at spring football eve for Florida State. And you know what that means. Roundtable time at 247 Sports, Noles247. It has been, some people call this a slow season, never that way for us. And you would know that if you were a Noles247 subscriber. If you're not, let's rectify that situation, baby. I talked to my friends up at corporate. 50% off, extended for another 48 hours to the end of Tuesday. Sign up, you get 50% off for an entire year of the best video, scoop, recruiting, article coverage in the history of college sports, but certainly the FSU beat. I'm here with all of my friends, and we're going to be talking about everything that you need to know about spring football. I have come up with multiple illuminating topics. We're going to do a little By or Sonone, hosted by the king. That over there, that way, hosted by the king himself, and it's going to be great. But we also have a little bit of housekeeping to do. Brendan, announcements?
Ooh, an announcement. Yeah, first off, the promo, 50% off, annual membership, like Trey mentioned. I think it lasts for what, Chris? 2 more days we got?
Yes, till midnight on Tuesday.
All right,
so
do it now, because what's going to happen inevitably is recruiting stuff's going to pick up, and everyone's going to be like on Twitter, "Oh, when's the next promo?" The promo's now, so do it now, guys. Don't wait. All right, so that's number one. Number two, the announcement that it's been years in the making, eagerly anticipating this for a long time. It's a long time to wait, but you guys know I like whiskey, right? Is that a secret?
Yeah, look behind you, man. You're pretty obvious about it. Not quite
He
subtle.
likes guys that can snap the football.
Guys that can snap the football, whiskey, both are very, very important to me. Well, if you notice, a lot of the whiskey behind me is from Chattanooga Whiskey. It's one of my favorite craft distilleries out there, probably my favorite. They do an excellent job of all sorts of amazing products. They have an entry-level whiskey in like the 90 proof range that people are going to like. My personal favorite is their 111 proof, put a little hair on your chest. They have rye. They do experiments where they finish stuff in all kinds of different wine finishes. And through my whiskey adventure, I've found myself often turning to Chattanooga Whiskey because they are so unique, and they put the craft in craft distillery, and they are kicking the butt of some other Tennessee whiskey conglomerates that will not be mentioned. With all that said, I love Chattanooga Whiskey. I am beyond thrilled to announce that they will be sponsoring On the Bench moving forward. So we have another sponsor to go with the Turner Group. Two great sponsors. Baby. And yeah, so Chattanooga Whiskey to commemorate this first episode, I'm going to pour the very first bottle I got from Chattanooga Whiskey. It was a single barrel store pick that Pat Davis, the Florida region rep for Chattanooga Whiskey, he is a friend of Chris Nees back when they were doing debauchery in college, I believe, Chris. He was a walk-on at FSU in the mid-2000s, and Chris can speak to the debauchery while I pour this. But Pat's good people, support a Knoll. If you guys like whiskey, you want to try all kinds of different varieties, Chattanooga Whiskey is going to be where it's at, and I am thrilled that they're going to be part of our podcasting experience right now and in the future as well.
Chattanooga
relationship whiskey. 2 or 3 years in the making, I feel like.
The pandemic. I remember talking to Pat driving down to Miami in 2000 before that, or 2020 before that fantastic game. So, yeah.
Now, Brendan, I live in Iowa, so I know my corn-based alcohol, normally made out of a bathtub of some sort, and I cannot lie to the people, so I would expect multiple bottles of that to be coming to the foot of my doorstep so I can try to tell everybody the intricate delicacies that I know incorporate a beautiful bottle of Chattanooga Whiskey. You will be sending me product to sample ASAP. All right, speaking of, let's get into stuff ASAP. Let's talk about spring football. Guys, it wouldn't be a roundtable without a little bit of hyperbole. Chris Nee, is this Mike Norvell's most important? I picked on the tired guy. Is this Mike Norvell's most important spring ever?
No, it's just the latest one. It's pivotal. I mean, Brendan definitely wants me to drop. It's pivotal.
Of course, it's pivotal.
It is pivotal. But I wouldn't say it's the most important. I truthfully think last year was probably the most important one he's ever had because they were at sort of a nice edge point last year. Mm-hmm. Now, is it important? Yeah, there's importance to it in the sense of there's a great deal of expectations around these parts, and this is where you begin in addition to the winter conditioning program they just concluded. of kind of instilling how we're going to manage that while having our own expectations within the program.
Dane, what about you? What do you think about this? Do you agree with Chris? Do you have place a little bit more importance on this spring just because of all the lofty expectations that are being placed on the team? What do you think? Or do you agree with the big guy?
I agree with Chris. I think it's gonna be the most fun, like from our point of view and stuff. It's gonna be awesome, but is it the easiest for him? Is it the easiest spring?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, maybe he has the least like terrible holes to fill and that sort of thing. But I don't know. It's a very important spring because it's a spring where we can really elevate, or he can elevate the program into a spot where it hasn't been in a while, and there's pressure that comes with that. But I think he's well equipped to do so.
I like that. Not a total dumpster fire spring. So Mike Norvell's fairly happy. Anybody disagree with Chris? Does anybody think this may be the most important spring ever, or no?
This will have the highest expectations of any spring he's had, and with that, it makes it extremely important. I agree with Chris in that last year was really the time to start making. It was a turning point spring for them, and really kind of a now or never type of element for FSU and for Mike Norvell. So not the most important, but like in terms of like what's at stake for getting FSU to the next level, like you can't take a step backwards. That's for sure. No. If we want to talk about this program, covering it, being a championship contender, if not just in 2023, but 24, 25, and subsequent years, like this is a damn important spring because you have a lot of new pieces, a lot of returning players as well. Got to combine that all together. Then you have to meet it with, they can say the expectations are always high for them internally. That's a talking point in the spring. But the weight and the gravity of what a singular loss means, what two losses means, it changes what it has in any other year previously. So expectations are different, super important.
And I think I agree with you guys, like, and on the whole, the most important spring, I think, was last one because it decided Mike Norvell's career. This one kind of will decide the trajectory, just how high Florida State can go. You've got a lot of investment right now, a lot of fan support, a lot of momentum, a lot of NIL support, a lot of NIL momentum. You take a step back this year, going to be hard to get that snowball rolling again. So I think I definitely agree with you guys. Adam, what is the storyline that you're watching the most from this spring? Is it a unit, a position group, a singular player? What are you keeping your eyes on in these next couple weeks?
I'm just looking to see how they develop depth. I think year 22 is kind of understood, and there's a good concept of who those guys are going to be. I think depth's going to be important for this season. Obviously, you're going to play in a lot of games where you're going to be heavily favored. You're going to play a lot of those guys, but those tight games are your next 11 going to be able to go out there and win you those football games? So for me, it's just about developing depth. What are those guys behind the starters going to look like? How many good reps are they able to get throughout this spring, and what kind of ceiling can they build with those guys?
Zach, what about you? What's your storyline to watch for these next couple of weeks?
I can't believe AB didn't take this, but the trenches, man.
I know, it was a layup. I was very surprised. Look at him trying to be contrarian.
Deep on the offensive and defensive line this season. I'm really excited to see how that O-line shapes out. Do those transfers come in and start, or do those returning guys assume those roles and beat out all those incoming transfers that have all the hype coming in? And then on the D-line, I mean, you got a ton of studs on the interior. You got, obviously Verse coming back on the edge. So I'm excited for those position battles. And then just when they go head to head, O-line, D-line, that's going to be a really fun drill to watch this spring.
It is going to be fun too. Like you said, in the trenches, a lot of it's going to be almost like how a championship baseball team is at the beginning of the season. They got to figure out like the rotation situationally, who's going to come in, how do the pieces work together, the offensive line, who are going to be the five, right? Yeah. How do they work in concert? How do they get all the communication in? I find that to be very fascinating too. Kev, what about you, man? What's your storyline you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think we'll get into whole position groups that I'm looking at later, right? But
correct.
The singular thing I want to look at is how is Jaheim Bell going to be utilized under Mike Norvell's offense? So Norvell's very multiple with his formations, how he uses people. how is he going to take this dynamic athlete, someone who's played running back and wide receiver and tight end, and where does he fit in this group of players on Mike Norvell's offense? So that's kind of where my eyes are going to be. That's like my big kind of focus, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Kev, we know Mike's watching. Give him a suggestion. How would you use him a little bit? Give him a little taste.
I mean that's really tough. It depends on how willing he is to kind of block, but I think you're trying to get him out in space on linebackers as much as possible. You're trying to get him manned up on mismatches. The guy's a mismatched machine. So I mean, who are you gonna defend him with? A linebacker? He's too slow. A cornerback? He's too small. Maybe you're able to kind of take some safeties out of the game, and I think that having him and Johnny Wilson on the field at the same time means that the defense really, who are you going to double between those two guys? And if you double both of them, well, now you don't have enough guys to stop Trey Benson. So how they utilize him, where they put him on the field, that's going to be fascinating.
I agree with you. And I think a lot of other people agree with you too, Kevin. If you take a look at a great article, Noles247.com, 50% off to the end of Tuesday. Sign up, you cheap so-and-sos. There was an X Factor article that we did. There was a, what was it? There was the X Factor and then a hot take. So we all had to do like hot takes. Really great article. Jaheim Bell's name came up so many times. And it's as much as one player can, especially from the tight end position, he's going to put some opposing defensive coordinators in a bind. And it's going to be very fun to see what they can do with them. Chris Nee, let's talk about the positional groups that Kevin said. Nice segue, bud. What's the positional group going into the spring that you are the most confident in right now?
Quarterback, because Jordan Travis is back.
You can't say quarterback. Say another one.
I cannot say quarterback. Okay.
Because it has a 2-second answer.
If I can't say quarterback, I guess I will go with I mean, there's several, and that's a beautiful feeling. But I guess maybe receiver, but there you got to figure out the replacement of Pokey. Could be running back, even though you lost Trayshawn. You know, you got talent. So there's a ton going on. They're in a pretty good spot.
I like
the least confident is an easier question for me.
It's coming next. It's coming next.
Jumping ahead.
He
Chris.
loves to jump
Hold on.
ahead.
I caught you quick though. I ain't letting you. I don't play those games. Adam, you were doing like some wavy hands, like revival.
I'm thrilled that
thing.
Pokey's getting the love that he deserves.
Oh, it was a
sadly
Pokey
when he's
thing.
gone.
Dude,
All right, well,
end that real quick.
How can I mute? I'm
Running
trying to mute
back.
him.
Okay.
Okay.
The answer is running back.
Why is it
How
the
are we-
answer?
We're thrilled with running back. Aren't we thrilled with running back?
I know
Look at that
you are.
room.
Elaborate.
Do I need to elaborate? I mean, look at
Yes.
all the articles written about Rodney Hill and how great he looked in Tour Duty. Trey Benson's put on another 10 pounds and he's had a full offseason and another year removed from that knee injury when he looked like a top 5 running back in the nation. Rodney Hill, Keziah Holmes looks like everybody's favorite walk-on. Like CJ Campbell's a guy that nobody's going to talk about, but he's even really good. That room is really deep and is really good. Like, and Mike knows and Coach Johnson know how to get the most out of them. So that room, I like am never going to bat an eye about that room.
So AB, I've got a question.
Oh boy.
Trayshawn, in my opinion, so this is, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think Trayshawn Ward offered a very unique 1-2 punch with Trey Benson. And you often saw when Trey Benson wasn't able to get anything going, say like the Oklahoma game, it was Trayshawn Ward that stepped in as a change of pace from kind of what Trey Benson offered you. Do you think there's anybody that's going to be able to replace? I think everybody's going to be good, but I think that the complement between the two of them was unique. And do you think that's replaceable?
Yeah, I think Rodney Hill is going to replace it just fine.
What was the way about what Trayshawn did? Like, what specific skill sets created that dynamic that Kev's talking about that you think Rodney can replicate or maybe even improve on, Adam?
Trayshawn was really patient and he allowed things to develop in front of him. Trey gets out in front of himself a lot. Like that's why he's so effective on outside zone, because he just goes. And if it's stopped, if the edge is set, a lot of times he just kind of runs over the edge. Whereas Trayshawn allows blocks to develop in front of him. He kind of gets in and then squirts out. And his stature was real small. The guys lost him at times on the defensive side of the ball. So he was able to squirt out, get to the sideline, and take off. I just think Rodney's really, really talented. Like I I think the blocking is going to be better. That we're not going to be worrying about. We need a 1-2 punch in there. Like, I think the blocking is going to elevate, and we're not going to feel like we need that change of pace.
Okay. Anybody got a positional group they're most confident in on the other side of the ball on defense? Zach does. Go ahead.
For me, it's the tackle. I mean, at the very least, look at the depth. We were talking about depth before AB brought it up. We want to see how it develops. I'm not in the least bit worried about the depth in that room. You've got so many young guys that are really impressive, some veterans that are probably not even going to see starting roles this season just because of the two transfers you brought in Braden Fisk and Daryl Jackson. And then, Fabo's coming back. So I just, the top end and then just the depth of that room just make me feel super, super confident that, even if they aren't living up to some crazy expectation of being absolute difference makers, they have a bunch of guys they can rotate through. They're never going to get tired. That's not going to be an issue like we saw in 2022 for FSU.
They're so deep. There might be some scenarios where you could see 3 defensive tackles on the field at the same time. 3, tres tackles. Dane, a positional group. What's one that you're the least confident in, or one that needs the most work in refining during spring?
It's not what I'm least confident in, but the one that needs the most work and will be like the most intriguing and seeing it progress from where we have seen it would be tight end, because your 2 best guys maybe in that room now are both transfers, incoming or newcomers. And you look for Biscuit, Marquise Douglas to continue his growth and his development. But that's just been a position that's been so weak at Florida State for so long, and seeing how that improves is going to be really intriguing. I think that definitely needs a ton of work. And I mean, Kev talked about it earlier with James Bell, like how they'll use him is really intriguing as well. Whether he'll be like a traditional tight end, where he'll be used, what your depth actually looks like there with guys that are younger, like a Brian Courtney, or even like a Jackson West and Terrell Powers, these other guys, what does that position really look like?
Yeah, we got a lot of tight ends on this roster. Brendan, same question to you. Chris, I'll get to you with your so easy answer. I hope nobody said it yet. Brendan, what about you? Positional group that needs the most work or you're least confident in before spring?
Probably because of the variables and the unknowns with it is the defensive backfield. And part of me feels really good about you bring in Fentrell Cypress, who looked really good in tour duty. Probably in talking to sources during the offseason, we heard from the most amount of people the same thing about Fentrell Cypress, which is that they hit on him. And that coaches are talking about him on the record and saying the exact same thing too, like they are putting their names on it. So you have that potential game changer as a true CB1. But what that really does is opens up all these possibilities for you at other cornerback spots. Does Renardo Green step into the slot? Is Azaria Thomas, Jarian Jones, guys that you try to move in there? Because you have Kevin Knowles, who might miss portions of the spring with a shoulder injury, and he was up and down last season while playing hurt. And then Greedy Vance is also kind of a wild card as well. So you have different pieces that you're going to try to figure out at cornerback. Without there being necessarily a sure thing, although good problems to have there, I think. But then we go to safety, where you lose Jamie Robinson. Really, FSU hasn't lost a ton from last year's roster, but Jamie Robinson to me is the biggest piece that you have to replace. That's not a hot take. I mean, he's going to get drafted probably early on day 3, coming up on April. He'll make himself a good chunk of money in the NFL, probably play for a long time. That's this malleable, versatile chess piece that FSU developed him into the last couple of years. And that's a player who's going to be difficult to replace because he did so much well.
Right.
And so as we go to what I'm not really confident in this spring, Akeem Dent, is he 100% going into the spring? It sounds like he was limited during tour duty, but working his way back into it. Shaheem Brown, I'm very high on, but this is going to be a big jump up in play for him in terms of just the amount he's going to play. And then Duke Cooper moves from cornerback to safety. What does that look like? So defensive backfield, I think, has the most unknowns. It makes me the most uneasy entering the spring because it could look really good, right? But then there's also the chance that you may exit the spring being like, oh, we have an issue at safety, and have to go into the portal with a reduced amount of options because the safety market and the transfer portal before the spring was not great.
That's the room that I think has the highest potential variability, right? Like it's the most volatile to where, it still could be good like all the other position groups that we think, but there's a chance it could be a weakness. Chris, Anybody taking your answer yet? I'm going to guess by your new little screen name there. Probably not. Go ahead.
I thought that was a phenomenal answer by Brendan, and I wish Conrad Hussey was here. I'll add that. I think Conrad Hussey in the spring would have been a nice addition and complement that room. For me, it's kicker. It's what I was least confident in most of last year. There were points last year where I didn't trust the idea of trying to kick. And I understand we expect an explosive offense that should produce a ton of points. But even some of FSU's best teams I've ever sat and watched had a game or two during the year that still came down to kicking the ball. And it's just a position where I hope Fitzgerald has put it all in his pass, has a really good spring, shows the ability to do it, is comfortable, and it dismisses the whole thought. But I'm not there yet.
Do you think they need to go out and get somebody to challenge him?
Well, they got it's what, Tyler Keltner, right, Dane? That's his name. They got him. So you do have that. And then you have Aiden, I believe, is still here, Sharari, who kicked some for him last year. So you have options. And I think that's good for the competition standpoint. Competition is going to be a central word of the entire spring at a number of positions. But I think it's good to have that at kicker. Just to reinforce the idea to the guy that you're not guaranteed the job just because you've had the job.
You guys have seen Ryan at practice. Do you think that the strides that he took near the end of the year after an extremely shaky portion, do you think he'll be able to take that momentum and it was like a momentary yip type situation? Or is this something that Nole fans are going to have to monitor throughout the entire spring and upcoming season?
I think he got away from the issue that plagued him last year. He's still been at times a little somewhat inconsistent or unreliable at moments. I think he's fine. Like, I expect him to dismiss my thoughts of this. I'm just going into the spring needing to see that actually happen to believe it.
Okay. All right, moving on. That was interesting. Kicker. He would do special teams. Kevin. It's king of the springtime, right? There's always a guy that distinguishes himself in the spring, a darling of the message board. And sometimes they carry that into actually being good and contributing that year. And sometimes they don't. They were just a spring guy. Potential king of the spring candidate for you, Kevin Little.
I've kind of talked about him several times since we saw the Tour of Duty workout. I like Kenton Kirkland a lot. You do. I think I'm gonna take a criticism. I think he checks all the boxes. I think I think people. This is the equivalent. I think it's going to be kind of like AZ Thomas, where he kind of got buried by someone that was higher ranked than him on the 247 recruiting rankings, and Conrad Hussey and Sam McCall last year. Not to compare those two directly, but just I think he kind of came in with little fanfare. He's a 3-star, right? But he is 6'2". He moves well. He's fluid. He's not too thin. It looks like they've put on a few pounds on him. I think he kind of stands out when you look at him next to some of the athleticism in that safety room, just from pure athleticism. I think still learning the system and learning the game. He has some way to go, and I'm not projecting him as a starter or anything, but I think he's going to be a guy that kind of stands out to the crowd when they see him next to everybody and they think, that's a 3-star freshman. So Kenton Kirkland, that's my king of the spring prediction.
I like that. Zach, I want to get yours as well, but just on the Kenton Kirkland piece, he was very unheralded coming out of high school. Kevin saw him, other guys saw him. He looked very impressive, both physically and in the movement. Why do you think his ranking was like depressed a little bit? Do you think there was some film issues? Just talk about him specifically, his evaluation, and if we underrated him a little bit, and then who your king of the spring is.
Yeah, I actually think 24/7 Sports specifically was pretty high on Kenton Kirkland compared to the rest of the industry. I know Andrew Ivins, who's the director of scouting now for 24/7, like absolutely loves him and like was higher on him, like even than some of the other guys in our company. Like he was like, vouching for him to be highly rated because he thought highly of him after watching him, I think, at the Seminole Showcase event over the summer at FSU. So I know he's high on KJ, and I'm the same way. I think KJ can be a really good safety, and I think that's where he needs to be. I think some of the worry with him at a high school is a little bit of, when he flips his hips, is he going to be able to keep up with someone downfield? He is a track guy, so he has the speed. But I think that was kind of the worry is some of his ability to flip his hips and keep up with receivers downfield if you were projecting him as a cornerback. But I think safety is the most natural fit, and that's kind of what Chris and I have been, saying ever since, Florida State landed this kid a little, under a year ago.
Okay. Who's your king of the spring? Potential king of the spring.
I got to go my boy Darion Williamson. Dane. I was in the hype train way before you. First of all,
I was leading the hype train. I'm the conductor. No. You guys both shut your mouth.
Chris, okay, ridiculous. Impartial judge. Who called dibs on Darion?
It was maybe like 2 years ago.
Brendan's been banging that drum. He loves him in practice.
Who covered him as a recruit?
But I hit it way harder, man. Come on.
Who broke his commitment? Who broke his commitment?
I think I was at his elementary school.
I got his
edit grade football game.
Norvell dropped the word elite in reference to Darian the other day, and I don't think Norvell uses that.
Before Norvell did.
Yeah, it was
whatever, Dane.
In the comment section,
uses that word loosely.
In the comment section, Brendan was first. Zach broke news with the kid. Dane hit it real hard with the kid. In the comment section, I want you guys, that was his own words, verbatim. In the comment section, who is the leader of the Darion Williamson hype train? You guys decide in the comments. We will see. Straw poll. Okay. Zach, as the contested right now leader of the Darion Williamson hype train, he looks like an elite receiver, like Chris said. I know that irks him when people say that, but you see the elite characteristics.
Yeah, I mean, Florida State needs someone like him within their offense right now, in my opinion, right? You got Johnny Wilson, who's going to assume a starting role, barring anything crazy. But then, the slot guy will probably be Micah Pittman, or maybe if Winston Wright comes, back into full swing, he can compete for that spot. I think you need another outside receiver, and Darion Williamson fits in perfectly with what Mike Norvell loves to do. He's twitchy. He's insanely athletic. He has the ideal measurables, and he's super fun to watch. I hope, I just need him to stay healthy. Please stay healthy. If he stays healthy for an extended period of time, he's going to be an absolute dude here. And I think Mike Norvell understands that. I remember a specific moment, this shows why I should be the leader of his hype train. I was so tuned into this specific moment of when Mike Norvell was watching Darion Williamson make a play in fall camp, right when he was coming back from that preseason injury. And he goes over and turns to Derek Ray and he goes, look, that's what he can do. And that was the first practice back, and he made an unbelievable grab in the end zone.
He said that's exciting. Verbatim is what he said. I remember it. So when I write the story on him being a first-round draft pick,
I think you're trying to make that up so you can fill into my moment that I witnessed. I don't even think you were around. You were on the other side of the field at the
Can we wait till he played more than one game in a row?
All right, the comment section will settle.
Okay, Pokey Wilson Hive.
All right, the comment section will
we're at mid-spring discontent with one another.
I like it, dude. I didn't know what lever to pull. Fantastic. I'm going to use that one again. Brendan, who's your king of the spring? It's obviously not Darion Williamson because you don't like him as much as other people on the team. So who's yours?
So king of the spring does kind of have the connotation of someone kind of came out of nowhere, right? It has to be this element of a surprise, of a dark horse, a little bit of this gritty factor that you can really root because this person has surprised you. I'm going to go with Keziah Holmes. And I was the naysayer of Keziah Holmes to our message board, telling them to slow down during the season when everyone's trying to say he should be a top 3 running back of the rotation next year. I'm not ready to say that. What I am willing to say is watching him move towards the end of last season during spring or during bowl practices, it was impressive. Then seeing him at 210 pounds move the way he did at tour duty, again, impressive. There's something there. David Johnson spoke really highly of him the other day. I think Keziah Holmes brings an element of this little extra size and power that FSU can use situationally to kind of spell Trey Benson some. There's something there. I didn't know if there would be when he first came to campus. And now I see that there is probably a path to him doing something during his time at Florida State. So I would not be surprised now at this point, I guess, with the information we've gathered, if we exited the spring, say there is a role for Keziah Holmes for Florida State, either in 2023 or the year after that. There's something to build on. I think that's kind of what I'm expecting now that we're entering the spring, which frankly, I didn't think that would be the case even 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Never count out Brevard County. It is the
Mm-mm.
one with the highest repository of good athletes. Drink it in. Yeah, that's a fact. Anybody else have a King of the Spring candidate that wasn't mentioned that they would like to throw their name in on the hat for?
I know
Byron
AB's
Turner.
got one. Oh,
Byron Turner.
there it is.
Okay. Why?
Why? I don't know.
Awesome. Great talk. Dane.
He's like a number 5 DN. I mean, it's never going to be one of your top end guys. He's a guy they really like. I mean, he's got a lot of bursts and a lot of game. He's just got to be. He's kind of like Darian Williamson. He's got to be healthy and available.
Don't even. Don't
AB.
even my boy.
What?
Throwing stones.
Your
Kevin.
boy. It's listen. All right, I'm gonna hear. I've been
Hey,
following.
we got a poll. Hey, we got a
7.
poll going in chat.
So
We're trying to
this-
make this objective.
Hold up, Adam. Just give your thoughts because your Byron Turner answer was like 5 syllables. So go ahead and
Since this
expound
site
on
never
this.
began, I've been a part of it. I've been a member of this site, so I know everything that's going on around here. Brendan was the first to officially talk about Darian Williamson as a good player. There's not really a whole big question about this. Like,
Wow, it's
I mean,
election
come on,
season,
Dane.
and
My
he's
blood's
got
boiling
Coach
right now.
AB's
first off, Dane's
endorsement.
immediately out of the contest because he doesn't like Jaheim Bell. He doesn't think he's a good tight end. So
Oh
immediately
man,
out of the contest. All right.
I am like hopped up on coffee right now. I would write a 1,000-word essay on why I am the president of the Darian Williamson Club right now, man.
Do it right now.
Wait,
Write it tonight.
I got to
Yeah,
know
to
why you're the
quote-
president of the Jaheim Bell Sucks
You don't
fan
have the
club.
To
You don't
quote
have the guts.
Dane, Morlock,
him,
more
though.
snaps and Bell. Dane, January 25th.
I haven't forgot it either, Chris. I promise.
Wow. Receipts
Uh,
on your own
sponsor, sponsor.
teammates.
I agree with all the names mentioned. The one other name I would throw out there, and I don't think he's going to take a starter spot, but I do think he's going to take a leap forward, is Omar Graham. I think he's someone they believe in. He has
Good
a
call.
tendency to be around the ball. I think he'll solidify himself as a second team option potentially.
Let me ask you a question. How did he look running in tour duty? Does he look looser than he's been? Like, he was kind of one of those dudes. That
The
was a
hips
little
aren't
tight, like
overly
DJ Lemon.
twitchy.
Yeah.
I don't think his hips will ever be overly twitchy. I think he has great instincts and he understands how to get to the spot quickly. So that helps make up for that.
He plays faster than he actually is, I think was the consensus we had when we watched the film, because he does have really high football IQ and his instincts are top notch, which, man, as a linebacker.
The speed's fine in a straight line. It's more the turning and going that becomes a
Yeah.
concern if you're having to play pass game behind you.
Yeah.
Real
Go
quick.
ahead.
Well, if you were moving on, I was going to say
No,
three.
I'm not. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to steal any of Kev's names. I was going to drop like 3 guys that I think are worth.
No,
it.
go ahead. I was actually, go ahead. I like it. Go.
Well, one would be Casey Roddick. I mean, seeing what he can be, he's like the lesser. I don't want to say lesser known of like the offensive line transfers, but lesser like heralded, I guess.
Yeah,
and
I
he
think
could
so.
really
I
have
think that's fair.
a huge impact on the team. Rodney Hill, that's who I would say, I guess, if Zach is going to steal Darian Williamson from me.
Dastardly.
He'd be my main guy. And then and Shaheem Brown, I think, would be awesome if he had a big spring too. So he could be a super big deal for the team in 2023.
Yeah, potential
Kev
X
just got a
factor.
Peter.
Kevin, did anybody? So he said Kirkland, so we're good. So let's move on. All right, Kevin, who do you think needs to have a great spring this year? Newcomer, could be a transfer portal guy, could be a returning veteran that may be like in danger of getting pushed out. Who is there anybody that in your head needs to have a good spring? Could it be a coach that needs to have a good spring? I don't know. It's open.
So I'll probably make some videos about this as the spring goes on, but I'm fairly confident that there were 2 teams whose main game plan was to go at your nickel.
Clemson
I think
was
that
one for
Jerry and
sure.
Jones is going to step in and be that guy. And AB has said
Kinsey.
it too. This is AB's take originally, and I agree with it. But I think he's going to come in, and I think he's going to own that spot, and I think he needs to.
I like
AB,
that.
will you have anything to add there?
No, I agree with you. They need to solidify that role and get that spot figured out if their defense is going to take the next step. And I think Dr. Love, as I like to affectionately call him,
Dr.
So
Love.
much affection.
I love
So much.
Darian.
I think he has the necessary length. I think he's willing to mix it up enough in the run game, and has good coverage ability when the ball gets down the field that he could step in there and be an answer for them there. If not him, I would look at AZ in there. and then maybe Greedy. I think they've got to figure out what they've got with Kevin Knowles, though, long term, because he is a guy you still need to be able to play.
So it's almost like you, Jarian, but it sounds like the nickel for you.
Yeah,
That's
they need
the
to figure
one.
that out.
Yeah, big time. Zach, what about you? Who needs to have the best spring? Like, who needs it?
Did someone already say Tate Rodemaker?
No, you'd be the first.
I think Tate Rodemaker needs to have the biggest spring on the entire roster. Florida State is going to need to replace Jordan Travis, and that's going to be such a hard thing to do at any program, right? Like Jordan Travis is one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and Tate is quarterback 2 right now going into the spring. So can he keep up that role, or is he going to get passed up by one of those youngsters like AJ Duffy or Brock Glenn? And I think Kev's got a lot of confidence in him, so you never know. But yeah, I think Tate has a really big spring ahead of him, and then obviously, into the season, we'll see how that quarterback 2 position battle goes.
Okay,
sure. Can I give it an answer? Because I just
that's what we're here for. Yeah,
I think Malcolm Ray needs to have a really big spring. I think that's a guy who's in danger of losing his role on this roster if he doesn't.
Crowded room.
Yeah, it's a really crowded room. They added some guys who can rush the passer, which was kind of what his deal was. He's always fighting a shoulder injury. It feels like he is a guy who could get lost in the shuffle really quick if he doesn't have a good spring.
I think that's a great answer. Anybody else have a name to add?
I may trigger someone with this name, but Travis J. He's hung around for a reason.
You're triggering a network.
I'm just saying it will be interesting. Like, he's hung around for a reason. He's bought into it. There were signs late last year that he kind of had turned a corner from an academic standpoint, and that's been mentioned by I believe Mike Norvell. Maybe somebody here recently in the coaching mentioned that, and also he just was more engaged in practice. That was noticeable down the stretch. I am interested. It's kind of now or never time. I guess that's the best way I can put it with Travis.
I think that's good. He's a guy that's been in those conversations like who might be the next to go, starting as early as last year with guys like Brendan Gant. Now, Gant is a guy that rebounded really nicely, really bought into the culture. Jay is still a question mark. There is potential there, and there's not many positional groups where there's a lot of opportunity to like really carve out a role for yourself. DB, I think there is. Brendan, ton of expectations placed on this team. What do you need to see from spring that would make you more confident in the team meeting those expectations in the fall? And conversely, can you actually take that much away from spring in general to where you'd feel confident in like saying that, oh, this team is going to perform?
I think, there is a cap to what the spring can tell us about fully what to expect in 2023. Because we have a good idea of like the main pieces, like a Jordan Travis. And we know what your quarterback is going to be. So you're not having to see this huge jump from this favorite word here, pivotal piece. But what would give me a lot of excitement about 2023 is if we see this day in, day out competition of these position battles. He's like someone like a Greedy Vance. If he's able to fend off whoever gets reps at nickel or is at least competing with them and not allowing them to take his first team reps, that would be huge. If Maurice Smith is able to push away Casey Roddick at center and say, I am not going to give up this starting job with another transfer coming in a second straight year. Those are the kind of things that I would look for to say, all right, FSU has the culture set that you want to contend for something meaningful, and they have the depth in line too. So if these position battles are legitimate, like wire to wire throughout the spring, and there's no clear winner because both have 2 or 3 guys in the depth chart performed well, that would be really exciting, and I think would indicate really positive things for FSU when the season comes around in August.
Adam, you were raising your hand. Did you have something you wanted to say, or are you just a gesticulator?
Yeah, I'm just kind of moving my body around here. But are we talking about what this
Kid show,
spring, the significance of the spring?
I'm talking about if there's something that you saw in the spring that if you saw development, like let's say nickel was solidified, something like that, or the defensive end rotation, like Byron Turner showed up in a way that you didn't expect, it would say, hey, I feel really confident about this team competing for a conference championship? Or are you the type of person that says you can't really take that much from spring no matter what we write about?
Nah, I don't really care. It's spring ball. Like,
well, you guys should all care because there's a 50% off annual promo,
it's
and
huge.
I think Adam's poo-pooing it a little bit.
No,
Also, this Chattanooga whiskey.
This Chattanooga whiskey
Oh,
is
excellent.
beautiful. I don't
Do you
know
guys
because I
like-
don't have any yet. But
Well, I will send you. Do you guys like cherry?
yeah, dude.
Do you like
Okay.
marshmallows?
Yeah, dude. I'm fat. Give me all that stuff.
Do you like brown sugar?
Yeah, man. It's my favorite type of sugar.
So anyway,
Go ahead, Adam. Why do you say
Yeah,
you're a
I-
coach? Yeah, why do you say that?
you're just trying to find out who you're going to go to the dance floor with. Like, just like Saban said recently, like you're just trying to find out what your roster is, who you got, who you're going to be able to rely on. I don't think there's any like grand scheme takeaways or anything like that. Like they're going to be so basic and so vanilla with a lot of stuff that they're going to be doing. There's going to be an uptick because they have so many veterans, but do we expect Jordan Travis to practice a ton this spring? Like,
Norvell said that they're going to share first team reps. He intends to have every quarterback in that room, all four of the scholarship guys, get first team reps. So I think that speaks to Jordan will probably have some light days, but at the same time, I think there's going to be moments where they do truly push this team in the spring, post spring break. So not in the first three practices, but in that Pac-12.
I'm sure they're going to want to get at least one really good scrimmage in with these guys. Spring game, we know what the spring game is. There's 2 scrimmages before the spring game, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to get one really good scrimmage in with everybody. Another scrimmage is going to be about finding out what their depth is. Then the spring game is the spring game. I really think for the most part they understand what their 22 is. They're trying to figure out what 23 to whatever is, and that's what this spring is going to be about for me. And that's what That's why I thought the depth earlier was my answer. And then 23 to whatever, finding out what you got there is going to go a long way in defining what your season's going to be. And that's what this spring's going to be about for them.
It's not so much it's going to dictate how the team's going to do this year. It's projecting roster needs and who's going to step up for the following year. So I think that's really great insight from a guy that's had to do it before. Dane, what about you? What would be a positional, like a development that would really make you feel more confident in any high expectations you have for the team that happened over the spring?
I think generally something that would be great to see is just like a comfortability with the newcomers coming in, especially the freshmen guys that you wouldn't really expect to be as comfortable. Like if you saw Hakeem Williams flash like more often, and it's not just an athletic thing,
right?
Or you see Brock Glenn maybe even being kind of comfortable. I don't know. But guys like that, I think that would be really great, especially the transfers. Generally, you can expect them to come in with like a comfortability that's much better than the freshmen, but they're still new in a program and they might take some time. And seeing these guys not have to do that and not struggle in that process would be encouraging.
I like that integration. And there are a lot of guys, even with like obviously the freshmen, it's a massive transition, but even though some of those transfer guys, they're coming up to a higher level of football, they're traveling from around the country. It's not as cookie cutter and as easy as we make it seem, right? There is like this, there's a human element to this. So I think that's very encouraging. One last one before we get to Buyer, Sonone, Kevin, anything that you'd like to add, anything that you particularly need to see?
Well, first of all, don't tempt me with a good time, Christopher Lee. I would throw in some film down here just to keep myself occupied. No, I think safety is a concern for me. When we did our defensive preview, that was really the big thing that
barriers, open access.
Is this the type of film you were talking about?
Yeah, so unleash your barriers, I guess. Yeah, so safety. I'd like to see something happen there. I'd like to see. I think there's a decent chance that Amarian Cooper just has a natural fit there.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we watching here?
Jeremiah Smith,
Yeah,
as we
true.
watched earlier today.
Oh, that's great.
Incredible
Okay.
wide receiver.
But like
Yeah,
you said,
that was
Kevin,
pretty impressive.
the Amarian Cooper thing is interesting because a lot of people thought that might have been a move of desperation. Like, hey, man, you had a rough year last year, kid. Like, you need to figure it out at safety. it seems from the stuff that I've read, that's not the case. Like, he may have a real aptitude for it. It may be a real beneficial for like both parties, not just kind of like a last chance thing. The kid may excel there and take advantage of that talent and potential that we saw his true freshman season.
And the stats would the like PFF metrics that you would look for in a safety seem to support that he's someone that you can trust to kind of make some sure tackles, whatever that means. But I think he might fit well. He was I think he was struggling with some of the deep threats, some of the faster receivers. So getting him that head start as a safeties might be big. Also, I think we need to see a big spring from Darian Williamson, who's just a little known guy. But I happen to be
talked about it all
fan.
in this. Yeah, not
What?
talked about it all in this roundtable.
I changed my name legally.
All right. Buyer
I beat
Sonone.
to it.
Buyer Sonone, 50% off at Noles247. Please sign up. We got to see some big numbies from this roundtable. We're never going to do them anymore. And also, go to the liquor store right now, right after this is done. Nothing like going to the liquor store on a Sunday night. A nice single-barrel Chattanooga whiskey, the finest blend of all. All right, let's play some Buyer Sonone. Brendan, I've got the questions. Do you want me to lead them? Do you want to be the Buyer Sonone guy?
You seem to enjoy playing Buyer Sonone so much last time. I will take over here for Buyer Sonone and play point guard here.
All right.
And not fueled by Chattanooga whiskey at all. This is going to go perfectly. But before we talk about Chattanooga whiskey, let's talk about the sponsor of Buy or Sonone. It's sponsored by
I think
the
it's
Turner Group. The Turner Group. If you're looking to buy or sell a home in the state of Florida, and specifically, like if you're in Central Florida, like Colin Turner is your man, but he can help you throughout the entire state through the Keller Williams umbrella. Don't Sonone on buying or selling a home just because it's a daunting process. Now you find someone who can help you out through all of that. That's Colin Turner of the Turner Group. Reach out to him at 407-403-8546 or email him at getstarted@theturnergroup.com. Let's play some Buyer Sonone, gentlemen. First off, I'm going to throw Kev under the bus here. Buyer Sonone, Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis is the most improved player in the history of FSU football.
Are you talking to me?
What?
Yeah. I think,
Oh.
right?
I thought you were phrasing the question.
I said Kev.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, a little squeaky there.
Yeah, I'd probably buy that.
Sorry. Kev.
Oh,
I mean, I'm gonna put myself under the bus here. I don't think he improved as much as people give him credit for.
Guys, when
I
we were
think-
driving back from Orlando, Kev, Dane, and I got into a heated debate to where it was dangerous for other people on the highway because we were arguing so much in the car with
Brennan
Kev
was
saying
driving.
this hot take. Go ahead.
I can vouch. Kev said the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It
Kev
is
say.
an awful
Kev's
take,
maybe
but
one of the
let's-
more intelligent
let
people
him-
that I know.
Oh
When he
man,
said that Jordan Travis
catching
was-
some heat.
He said it. He said it via text message to Brennan and I. And
No,
I
he
went-
said it-
This
he
is
said it
this
in
is all I'm
person.
going to say about it. People underestimate the effect that a bad offensive line and bad wide receivers make in how a quarterback appears to the general fan base and what his stats look like. I'll say that. It is vastly underrated how important the other, he's 1 out of 11 people on the field, how important the 10 other human beings are that play next to him. Having Johnny Wilson there this year made him a better quarterback without him having to be a better quarterback. Not saying he didn't become a better quarterback, but I'm saying that doesn't get factored in enough when talking about his improvement.
but it didn't get factored in enough for how good he was in previous years with all those shitty wide receivers.
Completely agreed.
There's a lot more nuance going on here than there was in the car that day. That's all I'm saying. Chris, you've been covering this program longer than any of us here. Buyer Sonone, Jordan Travis is the most improved player in the history of FSU football.
I mean, I feel like, in the time I've covered it, yes, bye. Andre Wadsworth comes to mind. I mean, he was basically a walk-on that came in here, turned into the best pick in school history prior to Jameis Winston. So I feel like he would enter that discussion. I'm sure there's others in that, especially like that late 80s, early 90s era of guys that came in and became far more than they were thought to be when they walked through the door. But yeah, in the time I've covered it, I think it is Jordan. I mean, it's mind blowing how good he has become. Where he is legitimately the number 2 candidate for the Heisman in the sense of early betting lines, and that doesn't sound insane or far fetched. And 4 years ago, I wasn't convinced he could throw a ball down the field
Chris,
vertically effectively.
I got a question for you as FSU historian. What's Walter Jones' story? Like, why did he only play 1 year? Did he come
He was
in
a JUCO.
unheralded? Okay.
He was a JUCO. I don't know the exact details on that. I think it was a matter of having to wait to turn, and then he was just so good that it made sense for him to go.
Okay, so that wasn't really like an improvement thing, but I was like, man, coming in 1 year and like you're one of the best left tackles in the history of the game is pretty sweet.
Those were the good old days. You had just 1 years of left tackle, franchise left tackles.
Maybe
You
the
just gotta
best left
churn and
tackle
burn.
ever.
Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famer.
Ever,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
And you got to get on the field.
And didn't Bobby want to redshirt him? And they were like, "Look, you can't not play this dude. He's that good."
Oh,
Charlie
Bob.
Ward was a punter. Like, it's just what this program was doing for a very long time.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like Kev's take on Jordan is him gaslighting Tate somehow. I feel like there's a Tate slant, and there's some way
Interesting.
somehow that
That's
it's going to
funny.
expose itself.
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Layers.
I think it's more like I don't think that Mackenzie Milton was good last year, but I don't think he was as devastatingly bad last year. I don't think you could put a pocket passer on that team last year and get points against anybody with a pulse. I don't care who it is.
Do you remember Louisville was just rushing 3 the entire game?
It's impossible.
In 2020 or 2021?
You're rushing 3 and your best receivers matched up man on their corner, and it's Pokey Wilson. Like,
Who is
Whoa!
Wow. All right. We need to
All right,
go on to the
this
next
is
one.
the end of X's and Nulls of this.
Just to
continuum.
clarify-
Every final sentence of everyone's points offends someone else.
Just to
Amazing.
clarify on Walter Jones, he did actually redshirt, I believe, in 95. He came in from home CC, played in 96, played the 12 games. He actually moved to tackle because of injuries, is what I was just reading really quickly. So that I remember Walter playing and being phenomenal, but like the story of leading up to that was before my time of investing time in such things. I'm not quite that old, Trey.
Sorry, but it's just you're so mature. I don't know. That's what I thought. All right, continue.
Does anyone want to sideswipe Keyshawn Helton before I move on to the next topic? We good? We good? All right.
That's all you
damage
do.
there.
Pokey
Byron-
Wilson's a great wide receiver. He proved us all wrong this year. You can't tell me otherwise.
Pokey had a nice season. Buy or Sedone. Trey, I'm going to throw this to you. Get the topic of conversation going with you, and then we'll flesh it out a little bit. Buy or Sedone, there will be at least 5 new starters on offense to open the 2023 season. 5 new starters minimum. Buy or Sedone.
I think the wide receivers are pretty set. Well, Wright may make it. I mean, the tight end, yeah. You got Bell, Gibbons, whoever his replacement's going to be. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to project all 3 of the transfer offensive linemen. 2 of them for sure. So I'm at 3. I do think that Winston Wright is going to make his. Oh man, I don't know because I haven't seen him in person. He's going to make. I'm going to say Sonone, but I think it'll be like in that 4 range. Very easily could be 5. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go Sonone, but it's just quick, but slimmest of margin.
Anyone want to buy it potentially? Because I'm with you, Trey. I think we're right on the cusp of it. Dane and Zach are the 2.
I don't
young
talk about
heads.
Zach.
I don't want to buy it.
Oh, okay.
I'll buy it. So Winston Wright, like it doesn't have to be a newcomer. It's just a guy who wasn't.
Just a guy who wasn't starting last year.
Yeah, that's how I took
Yeah.
it.
There goes Chris.
I'll take 3, all 3 interior offensive linemen as new starters with Jeremiah Byers, Roddick, and Keandre Jones.
Okay, 3.
And Jaheim Bell and Darren Williamson.
All right, so that's 5. All right.
Does Bless Harris count as like a starter from last year?
Oh,
He didn't end the season as a starter. I can't, in good faith, he
didn't
started
think
1
that.
game. I can't count him as a starter from last year.
Oh man, that might impact that. Adam, what do you think about that? How many of the 3 transfers do you think are going to be in the starting 5?
We're not counting Bless Harris. Did you say?
I
We
would
are
not
counting.
count him as a returning starter. He only
Okay.
started
That
1
might,
game
yeah.
in
Then I
his
might have to
FCS
buy.
team.
Then, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I think I'm at 4. I don't think I can get to 5.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm tough.
we definitely know 1 with Jaheim Bell, right? Like I think that's
Yeah, but I like Dane's saying, well, I think Darion Williamson's going to start. I don't know. I don't think Jaheim Bell's going to start at tight end.
what?
Yeah,
I
I
think
kinda
he's going to
get
start
that.
as like a flex wide receiver type. He's going to start as like
Even
a,
then, Cam
More like a
McDonald was
Micah.
gone. Whoever
he's going to play like a 2 or something
Okay.
like that, and Johnny's going to play the 9, and I just think there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff in there, and they're going to play Biscuit at tight end.
whoever
Brendan,
that,
do you mean will there be 5 new names in the first 11 guys that come out on the field for LSU? Is
that
that
I
what you're
mean
trying
that
to get at? Yeah.
that doesn't sound as succinct as what I was trying to go for.
Oh.
But yeah.
Yeah, all right. I'll buy that. There will be 5 new names. I'll buy that.
I think
All
5
right.
new names is. I think you
Especially
could
if they
get
come out in 2 tight end set. That'd be interesting. But will Kyle Morlock be tight end like the other guy on the
I
other
don't
side?
think so,
for that
man.
first
I think
11?
people are not. I think people are sleeping on Biscuit.
Sorry, my OCD. We need to move everyone back to where they were before. All right, good. Woo.
All right, so new starters: Jones, Roddick, Byers, Harris, Bell.
But Harris technically started a game last.
Oh,
year.
you missed
But
that point, Chris.
Brendan's-
We're not counting them.
But Brendan's not counting him.
Well, whatever.
Well, it's going to be hard to start anybody when Darian Williamson's starting all 11 positions.
All 11
I agree with that
positions, yeah.
too. Yeah.
Williamson is
So that's
6.
just one number.
What is going on?
You've heard of the
No.
A11. This is the A1, and it's just Darian Williamson throwing the ball to himself over and
Steak.
over and over again.
Mhm.
Oh,
6 is probably the
awesome.
maximum, but yeah, I don't know. You're gonna be 5's good. 5's a good number though. That's
Okay.
right there.
So at least what we're talking about here is FSU moves on from 2 to 3 starters from last year, and there's enough infusion of transfers to think it may surpass comfortably what you're replacing. So there's going to be competition, which leads us to the next buyers to know. What does this competition look like? FSU will have at least 5 offensive starters drafted after this season. So, like, what will the offense produce to the point of potentially getting you guys drafted? And the number is 5. Buyers to know. Anyone have a hot take or feel comfortable?
I'd buy that.
I'll buy that. I feel comfortable. I mean, I think Bell's got a real shot. JT, Trey,
Johnny.
a receiver
Johnny.
most likely, and Johnny, and then Byers is a guy that
I know.
Byers,
feel very good
erotic,
about that.
erotic.
So
Bell.
the swing guy there that Chris, you said it confidently, is Jordan Travis. And I don't think it's a crazy thing to say at all, but like, again, going back to even early last year when he was playing well, we were talking about whether he has an NFL skill set. And
I think Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts has given
that's
the
a great
vision that someone like that can work in the NFL.
point. I think so too.
He's not the same player as Jalen Hurts, but they have similar.
There's a
pros and
blueprint,
cons when
right?
you
You
write
can
them
like
down,
see an
right.
outline of how you can make that skill set be very dangerous. And I feel I think that's
I
not an
disagree.
easy buy, but I
Maybe he's the
feel-
Philly fan. What do you
You're a Philly
Disagree
guy.
wholeheartedly.
tell
With
me?
what?
With
Gerald
the
Hurts
number or
squats
the-
600 pounds. Like
Oh.
Yeah.
he's 230 pounds. Like he is a built dude. Jordan Travis is not that. But I do think Jordan Travis is going to get drafted like 3rd round, somewhere in that ballpark.
Do you?
Disagree totally, but he'll get drafted. The second
Well, I think he was
I'm just saying, I
disagreeing
don't
with
think-
him being
with
hurt.
the Jalen Hurts comment.
I think he's more Russell Wilson than like Jalen Hurts.
I know, but
think the blueprint's
Kevin, I know
already
what you
been
meant.
there.
I got
Yeah,
what you meant by that. I got what
Yeah.
you meant.
The
Do you
videos
think-
aren't as corny as Russell.
Oh my
Well,
God. He is the gift that keeps on giving.
Dane, go ahead, buddy.
If a guy like Bryce Young came and had like an impressive rookie season, does that in any way affect Jordan Travis's draft stock?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
1000%.
because of the size, and even who's the UCLA quarterback?
Dorian
Thompson
Thompson.
Robinson?
Yeah,
Thompson
similar.
Robinson.
He's like 6'1" or so. A lot of athleticism in this game, but a good passer at the ball too. Like there's multiple guys, potential rookies who could provide a further blueprint for Jordan Travis getting drafted, especially if he has this season with the weapons we've talked about. But I think it's interesting that we're counting him as a guy that we think. Like, raise your hand. Do you think it's likely Jordan Travis gets drafted this year? I do at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
Zach's the only one who doesn't. And that-
I think
that's fine.
stacking
Oh,
a season of
I was already
success
saying that.
statistically makes him comfortable with people. Plus, he's a kid. Well, he's going to be age is going to be a factor in all this for him because he will be viewed as older. But I think he's a kid that whiteboard wise and dealing with teams wise, he's going to make them very comfortable in that regard.
Yeah. Most quarterbacks being drafted, well, there'll be a handful of guys 21, 22 years old, but most are 23, 24. That'll be, day 2, day 3 guys. It's just COVID.
Stetson
really
Bennett's
they'll-
great grandchildren are entering college
he'll
next
be
year. So
26
he'll
when he
be
gets
okay.
drafted.
It's a copycat league, though, to what Kev was saying. Like, teams are going to they're going to find ways to want to use these guys. We saw it with what's his face with Arizona. Teams are going. The college game is making its way into pro football more and more. Teams are going to want to find ways to use these dynamic runners.
All right, let's move on. Buyer Sonone. Dane and Zach, I'm going to throw this to you guys. Buyer Sonone, Darren Williamson, or Rodney Hill? You can only pick one.
Darion.
Damn.
Beat that.
Oh, he said it.
I'll
He
say
said it
something.
first, dude. That could affect the straw poll.
All right, Zach's out. Yeah, Dane's at least in contention for number 2 for the Darren Williamson fan club.
I think
I know we can
Darion.
only be a fan club of one player.
Yeah, I mean, can't be jumping
Hey, Dane.
around.
Yeah.
Would you trade? I'm not even going to go there. Keep going.
What? I'm interested. Well,
Okay. Trade Mike Norvell out for Willie Taggart, but you get to keep Darion Williamson.
This is really where we draw, though. Bye, baby. No, I'm kidding. No.
But Darion Williamson has to be lined up backwards on every offensive snap.
Here, I got a hypothetical for you, Kev, because Jordan Travis is a product as much of anything of his supporting cast. What would it take if you were 2023 FSU? Well, no, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this.
Oh, this
They
is
say I want to
fun.
trade 2020 Jordan Travis to this year's team for 2023 Jordan Travis. I want to flip the two of them, the versions of them, right?
Okay.
What player from the 2023 roster would you have to trade with 2020 Jordan Travis to make it even? So Jordan Travis
That's kind of hard to
plus
follow.
You'd have to trade a. You'd have to trade
Jordan
a ton of
Travis,
them.
Jordan Travis plus
There
this
wasn't supposed to
player
be any math.
equals Jordan Travis in
Next
2023.
There is no single player that is more important than Jordan Travis on the offense.
But that's what I'm
But he
saying.
also
You get
hasn't
20
improved at all, right?
That's not what I said.
All right, guys, you get like
Next
I'm doing the John
question.
Nash calculations.
Next question.
here,
Colin.
man.
Buyer
Yeah.
Sonone, Duke Cooper is an effective safety for FSU. Who's buying the Duke hype? The Duke Cooper hype.
I said he was my X factor, so I guess I have to own it. That I'm buying.
This is important.
Duke Cooper was excellent the back half of his freshman year, and I think last year was a mix of getting banged up and losing a hell of a lot of confidence. I think the fact again in the transfer portal era, when dudes stick around, they usually do for a reason, and I think FSU believes in Duke Cooper. I think he knows that. There'll probably be a little bit of a grooving in situation, especially with the spring, as far as getting comfortable with a different role. But yeah, I think he's going to take to it.
How about Buyer Sonone? Duke Cooper plays so well that Florida State will not be looking for a starting safety in the.
All right,
transfer
Chris
portal
Nee,
after
that
the
kind of
spring.
jumps ahead to the one I want to end
Wow.
with.
Whoa. Trey, I love you. We're like brothers.
Sorry, dude, you're just doing it. Oh, you're up here in that one. Sorry, forget I said that.
All right, we'll get there quickly. Buyer Sonone, FSU has
It's a tease.
at least 4 front 7 defenders drafted after this season. Jared Verse,
Yeah.
Fabo.
Fable
Fisk.
probably,
Fisk.
Braden Fisk. All right, so we get to 3 pretty easily. Then it gets
Yeah.
interesting.
D.
Daryl
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah,
It's,
you're
kinda-
playing-
it's unlikely he gets drafted after this year. Like it's unlikely.
Unless
What
he
about
has a
Kalen
monster
Deloach?
year.
Is
Hold
he
on,
an
who's
NFL
unlikely they get
linebacker?
drafted? Who's unlikely they get drafted?
Daryl
Daryl
Jackson after this year, I think it's more likely that he stays for 2.
Hmm.
More likely.
I mean, I do think that's the plan going into the year, unless he does something exceptional. He's the wild card. I
What
think
about one of the
which is not
linebackers
likely.
or both of the linebackers? What do you guys think about
So-
them in the NFL?
Kalen Deloach has to play at a fairly high weight this season, which is up to like 210 to 215. Probably needs to get to 215 to 220 during the season and play well with that to justify being drafted by an NFL team. I think that's kind of the feedback he's gotten. And we'll have to play well. I don't think Tatum Bethune, just with his age, and I think he has some athletic restrictions as far as NFL level draftable player. I don't think that's likely. So that kind of puts a limitation on what he can do. So I'm Sononing my own question. I don't think you're going to get to that 4th one this year, unless Daryl Jackson proves to be something far ahead of what we think he is right now.
I'm buying it.
Ooh, Daryl Jackson, is that your
Mhm.
okay?
I think with one of those you're going to be able to pay more. I think you'll be able to keep one, but I think they probably could
Battle's
get
end factor. Yeah. 4 potential draftable, but we're not think that we're going to let all 4 of them leave. Okay.
NIL opportunities. All right. The last buyer Sonone, sponsored by
The Turner
The
Group.
Turner Group.
Trey. I'm gonna let you do this because you almost spoiled it. Well, you did. Honestly, you
It's a
spoiled it.
teaser. Just
It's
roll
not.
with
It's not a
it.
teaser when you do the whole thing. It's not a tease. FSU exits the spring. Buyer Sonone. FSU exits the spring without needing to take a transfer defender.
So no, I think the integration process will be nice. You've got a team that has championship aspirations. I think they're going to need to bolster that safety depth, and whether it's a starter or not, I don't know. They need to have somebody else back there. You cannot get exposed on a team where, as Chris has mentioned multiple times, college football is becoming more like college basketball, and these are short-term, almost one-year type builds. This is your moment to strike. Everything's behind you. The investment's behind you. The players are there. The schedule is there. It's time. And I don't think you need to leave that to chance. They need to take somebody else at safety, I think.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go in. I think it more has to do more so with the scholarship numbers than the safety play in the spring. I think that Duke Cooper or whoever we're talking about at safety is not as important as FSU getting to the right amount of scholarships to be able to take another transfer in this going into the season, because I'm pretty sure they have to lose about 4 to 6 players on their current roster in that transfer window in order to even take another defender like we're talking about. I think it's likely. I think if that scenario does happen where they're able to take another or add another player to their roster, they're going to use it to take a transfer defender and likely a safety, because like Brennan said, and we've talked about this at length before, but if you're gonna really go for it all in 2023, Trey mentioned this, like you're gonna need depth at that position at the very least. And are you super comfortable that Shaheem Brown and Akeem Dent are ACC championship level safeties? Maybe they've been Akeem's been inconsistent throughout his career. Shaheem's obviously still a young guy that's coming into his own, so we'll see. But I think you at the very least need some depth, some quality depth at that position heading into 2023.
So to add to this discussion, FSU has 12 DBs. They'll add 3 more as far as enrollment with high school guys coming in, and that's always a tough jump. I think Hussey's a guy that can help probably immediately because of program he's coming out of. So they'll have 15, but that's presuming they have 15, that the spring doesn't result in a guy or two saying, well, it's not going to work and I got to go. And that obviously changes the dynamics. I think the number is right in the neighborhood of where you want to be, but you also can get really thin really fast at a position where you basically have 5 spots and you have a few guys who you just can't trust because they're so young or they're so new to it all. So it can get thin really fast, and we've seen that happen 2 straight years where the DB rooms got kind of thin late. But yeah, Zach's right. They got to have a spot to give a spot to.
Yeah, I mean, you saw against Florida when Jamie Robinson went out. I'm not sure if Akeem Dent also went out.
He did, and
yeah.
Shaheem Brown was dealing with a hamstring issue, so they
Yeah,
were
so-
needed.
Yeah, you were pulling guys out from the linebacker room to put back at safety, and realistically, you've added Kirkland and Hussey, and you're moving Cooper, but you're not. Yeah, you don't have any surefire things. You're just missing Jamie Robinson, and you're hoping that you can develop to replace him. And I think I'm high on Kirkland and I'm high on Hussey. I said watching his film that I thought he would be able to contribute pretty quickly, but I think you need to figure out a way to bring someone in that's at least a reliable depth piece so you can give these freshmen chances to kind of have a chance.
Are those guys going to be available in the portal post spring? Like, I feel like the window to get those guys was going to be probably that December window. And are you going to go get a starter?
Well,
And I mean, I feel like they kind of are where they are at this point with that position. Like, Fuller has talked about he loves the depth there. They've got a lot of bodies. They've got a lot of numbers. Like at some point they do have to develop these guys. Like you do have to bank that you are developing guys and getting them better. Like with a Shaheem Brown, you wanted Akeem Dent back. You got him back another year. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of are where they are because I don't think you're going to go out and get a starter. They're very I don't know. They just don't seem like that's the way they want to go about it. I feel like they could have done that already.
Let me pose this question. Chris, help me out real quick with just numbers. FSU's hit rate the last 2 years in the transfer portal has been what percentage? Like 70?
As far as players coming in and contributing at a good, solid, two deep level.
Yeah.
In Norvell's time, it's like 76%, I think, is where it's landed.
So
it's been very good the last two.
When we get to mid-year, or excuse me, not mid-year, summer enrollees, so post-spring enrollees, what does that number probably drop to? Like Dylan Gibbons hit.
Yeah, it's far more difficult. I mean, every kid's their own individual case, but you're going to have to get a kid who's super mature or who has played so much football that concept-wise, it's just an easy pickup. It's not as plug and play as a kid that misses those 15 spring practices, because beyond the 15 spring practices teaching you the way it's taught, the language of how it's taught, because football is not all that different team to team, but language sometimes is different. Beyond that, it's also about fitting into that team dynamic, understanding how on defense they operate as an 11, because you got to know that on defense, especially at a position like safety where you are going to have to know what's the guy in front of me supposed to do, what's the rush up front supposed to be, what is the guy on the island to my left or the guy on the island to my right supposed to do, how am I supposed to help them out? There's just so much that goes into it that not having those reps definitely puts you at a bad spot.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come in June, you're here for essentially a month and a half, and then season starts. That's not enough time to get acclimated and get yourself really in the mix.
So the people who are thinking, oh, we can go and add a linebacker, we can go and add a safety in June, you can, but you're probably putting a cap to.
You didn't ask if it was ideal. You asked if it was a need.
That's true.
It's not ideal. It's a need.
So then we would be talking about an act of desperation to an extent.
I wouldn't say desperation. It's not. You got to make a series of choices. And
I mean,
the roster's not where you want it. I think it's a need. I know it's not ideal, but it's a need.
If you're going and adding a player with a 50-50 hit rate at best, then you're flipping a coin. There is a little bit of desperation because it is a need.
If you have the roster spot, why would you not take that?
Well, you max out to 85 without a shadow of doubt, and that would be probably your first spot you go to use one. So I agree with you there, Zach.
They aren't flush with roster spots right now. Sorry, Chris, continue.
But that's what I'm saying. If you do get to that point, you have there's no reason why you wouldn't.
Yeah, you've got to fill it.
Yeah.
I think we get a little stuck on starter guy. For me, it's more guy who allows you to have comfortable depth.
Yeah.
And, they lost one in that with Pac last year. Pac, he could run out there, and he knew what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Wasn't flashy, wasn't special, but also wasn't going to get you burned and killed. And I think that's where it falls in line. But you also got to have one of those who's available, and it's not always the easiest to find a kid who's in the portal saying, hey, you're not going to come here and start most likely, but we're going to try to use you. That's sometimes a tougher sales job than it should be.
I think too. I think that their thought process is that their front's going to be so good, it's going to mask a lot of problems that they may potentially have in that back end. That they're going to be able to play so much coverage, they're not going to be asking those guys to come up and be run box players like they've been in the past. That their deficiencies aren't going to be able to display quite as much. They're going to be able to allow them to backpedal and play flat-footed and be slower reacting and be better against the pass in that way, because I think that they think they're going to be that good up front. So I'm not sold it's as big a need as what maybe it was before they landed a Darrell Jackson and a Braden Fisk and got Verse back and got Lovett back.
It's almost like salary cap. Where are you going to spend it? How are you going to use it?
Yeah.
What impacts you the greatest?
I'm telling you right now, if there was an 85, if I had an 85th spot and there was a really good defensive end available, that's where my assets would go over a safety.
I would take a linebacker, a young linebacker.
You guys can correct me on safety. The only portal safety they were really involved with in the January go around was Jahad Carter, and that never even resulted in a visit.
Also, the Matry kid as well.
Yeah,
they
the
offered the
Matrix.
kid out of
Yeah,
DC,
but,
but
like-
it didn't seem to go
Yeah,
anywhere.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
But
that
they
was-
didn't seem
they
to
moved
push
on.
her at all.
Yeah, I think he went to like Louisiana Tech or something.
And they vetted the kid from Ole Miss, but that wasn't a major push. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they had a chance to push for multiple safeties, and it wasn't a robust market, but there were guys who could have at least been number 3 rotational guys with 2 years to play to potentially be starters after Hakeem Detlef, and they didn't do it. I do think there is internally a lot of confidence that Duke Cooper can fit in well there. I think Kev's talked about this before, like of them playing a lot more man coverage potentially, which is why you move a cornerback body to safety. So I'm a little more optimistic that they have the pieces that they need. I don't think we're going to exit the spring with that being this major position that you have to address personally.
Right now on paper, it's a crapshoot though, and it could go either way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Isn't
And
this
you
a
could
great
go-
place to be? Is that your spring is you're trying to figure out whether you need a number 3 safety? Like how far
Yeah.
they come?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, if the DB room thins out by 2 or 3, you are in a pinch. Going from 15 to 12, even if you don't think all 15 can contribute, off the bat, because you're dealing with 4 freshmen or 5 freshmen in that group, you still need like a group. So, but like Kirkland hits and steps up, and you got Hussey coming in, who I think we all feel confident in to a degree. Like you're probably comfortable with your depth, especially if Duke does take to the spot. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And what happens at nickel might also influence what's happening in the back end. Does Kevin Knowles loses that nickel spot, or Jones takes it, for lack of a better description? Does Knowles move to a safety spot? Maybe.
And you know who played safety in high school? Darian Williamson.
2 ways.
I think
All.
Brendan's
Wrap
just
it up,
one.
What a
Greg.
way!
Wrap
What
it
a
up.
First round
way!
pick at wide
Time is a
receiver
flat
and
circle.
safety.
Fantastic.
That's like needing to block the extra point and return it, and somehow he did it.
Well,
Are we
Brendan,
done?
I think so. Would you like to stick the landing?
No, I do not.
All right,
stick it. You're
fantastic.
better at
Dane's
it than
got
I
it.
am.
Dane's got it.
Oh no, don't.
Yeah,
throw it to
Dan,
Dane.
let the Dane train.
No, Trey's got it.
Chase got it.
You sure?
I looked up at Brendan, and Brendan's in a panic. So yeah, you can take it.
All right. Well, for myself, for the red-faced Dane Draper, for Zach Blostein, Kevin Little, not the hostile one, Chris Nee, Coach Adam Brown, fueled by Chattanooga whiskey, Brendan Sonnone. I am Trey Rowland. So for the Noles 24/7 annual subscription sale, it ends on Tuesday. Just sign up now, 50% off. Do it. For Chattanooga whiskey, for the Turner Group. One quick question: who is Darian Williamson's biggest fan in the comments section?
Me. Oh,
Did Brendan win?
Brendan did win 52%. I came in second at 19%. Dane in third at 18, and then Kev in last at 11.
Wow,
Joke.
Brendan.
That's pretty
bulldozed
impressive,
you.
seeing as I'm
Okay.
not actually.
For Kev to not even really put any effort in there is.
He put it. Hey, he put his name. I had to.
Kev's the candidate who made sure no other candidate could win, though.
Yeah.
Fantastic. For election tampering,
Damn you,
I am
Nader.
Trey Rowland. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Spring football is tomorrow. Get ready. Go to Noles 24/7 for the best coverage ever in the history of Florida State reporting or football in general. Keep chopping.